Hello and welcome back to the Current Creation Shop. Today we're going to take this mason jar and this drawing by my son and turn them into a nice rustic beer mug. Check it out. Now first things first, if we're going to do any work with leather, we're going to need some stuff. Now, what kind of stuff? This kind of stuff. Granite, leather, transfer paper, damp rag, stylus, roughing slicey dicer, precision slicey dicer, swivel knife, bevel tools, pear shader, tappy tap tapper, big ol' hole punch, small calipers, stitching punches, leather lace, needles. Okay, so at this point all we're going to need is going to be our drawing and our transfer paper. And a pencil. And a pencil. Hey, hang on, we add that to the list from the beginning. We need a pencil. What we need to do is transfer this drawing onto this transfer paper. Now remember, this is a child's drawing, so the devil is going to be in the details. We really want to push this over the top and show that this was drawn by a kid. So we want to try to mimic all of those little imperfections and little wiggles in the line. Those are what really add the character and the value to it from him. So there's our clock face all traced out and ready to go. Now we can get it over to the leather. This is the leather we're going to be using for this part of the project. It's a veg tan cow belly. It's a really fairly thick leather, but it tools very well. The first thing we're going to do is wet the whole thing down. We want it damp, but not sopping, soaking wet. And now that it's damp, it's back to the same thing we just did, more tracing. This time though, we're going to use our stylus. So now that we're finished off with our stylus and we've got the whole thing transferred over to the leather, it's time to turn our attention over to the swivel knife. Now a swivel knife, as you see here, is kind of a weird little leather working tool. Basically it's got a razor sharp blade at the end here, a knurled grip, and then this saddle that kind of swivels around. So the way you use this is you kind of grip it between your thumb and your middle finger, and then you set your pointer finger in that saddle. And this allows you to make some real precise cuts and just kind of steer the blade a lot better than you would any other way. So now we have to go back over to the design that we have, and we need to trace it again. Alright, so now that we have this all cut with our swivel knife, it's time to do something nice and new and trace it again. Woo! Yeah, but no, but for real, we do. And that's where these guys come from. So these are little beveling tools. What we're going to do is just kind of go in these little ridges right here that we left with the swivel knife and knock that down. And what that'll do is cause some depth between the lower section that's going to be in here and the raised section that'll be the line work from the original drawing. So first things first, we got to get our leather nice and damp. Now let's get to it. So with our bevels all in place, we're ready to move on to the next step. So with this one, we're not exactly tracing anything quite as much as we have been, but we're going to switch over to these tools. Now, these are called pear shaders, and they basically add shading. We're going to go through and just kind of clean up all of these areas that we knocked down on the edge. We're just going to continue knocking them down a little bit and just really enhance those numbers and the clock face. And we're also going to go through with the stylus to just kind of clean up some, like you saw me doing the 6 and the 9, and then just use the edges to kind of blur everything together. And with these three tools together, we're going to get this really over the top to go from this right here, which is not exactly a beautiful tooling, but a pretty good match to the drawing that we're going off of, to something that really just pops and stands out. So let's do that. Now that our clock face is all tooled out and it's really starting to gain that third dimensionality, we can cut it out of the leather piece so that we can trace it over and start working on the next one. So the first thing we're going to do is get this granite out of the way. Is we're going to take this knife and cut through into the granite. Is put a piece of wood underneath so that we can safely and gently remove the shape from the leather. So now that our clock face is all cut out and ready to go, you need to make the strap that's going to wrap around the jar itself. So after messing around a little bit and trying to figure out just how wide I wanted it to be, I stumbled upon this janky, busted up old number 605 bedrock hand plane. Probably going to be a future video when we go through and make this thing a little bit nicer, but it just happens to be the exact width that we want. So we're going to use it as a template. Now we still have to have a space for the clock face to go onto. So you kind of want to trace that on there as well. And now we're ready to cut. I'm going to make the curved cuts here using the X-Acto knife. Premiumbeat.com. Now with our strap all cut out, we want to add a little bit of little decorative embellishments on the side here, just to put a little bit more to it. So first thing I want to do is kind of trace out where the clock face falls. Now that we know where our design falls, we're going to tool this beer time around it. So I'm going to kind of speed this up a little bit, do a little bit more of a montage style. You've already seen me tool this whole thing, so I don't think you need to get the step-by-step here, but we'll still show it a little bit anyway, just so that you can see what's going on. So, montage time. With all of our tooling done here, we could move on to wrap it around the jar here, cut it short, stitch it up, but I have what I think is going to be a little bit better idea for that. I have a plan that's really going to push this whole beer time watch theme, and it involves some brass. So let's hop back into that montage, okay? know if you could tell there, but what we just made is a clasp, like the kind that you'd see holding your watch shut. So now, obviously, the next step is to actually mount it to our strap here. So I'm thinking we want it to go on this side here. So we're going to have to measure things out, lay it out, and pop a couple of holes. We've got our catch. We've got a little landing zone here. I'll put this through here. Well, we're going to have to open that up a little bit, but you get the idea. I'm going to take care of that all off camera real quick, and we'll be back with it all fitting together real nice. Off camera, got that fitting and operating the way that we want. So the next step is to actually wrap it around here and see where we have to punch the hole for this to go. So it fits, but it's a little loose. That's okay. Watches always have multiple holes. So now we know where we're at. So if we bring this in, say a 1/4 inch, we'll see where that lands us. This one is more than likely going to be a smidgen too tight, and that's okay. Because we can always, ooh, that actually might be good. So with a little bit of water, we can actually stretch the leather and get it to fit here nice and tight. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We got our first hole. Now we can just put a couple arbitrary ones in there just for the aesthetics of it all. So with that, let's say our leather work here is just about done. With this thing coming together, it's time to move our attention to the handle here. The idea for that is I have this piece of nylon rope, and I want to use that, but wrap it in some goat skin to make our handle. So first things first, we got to figure out how big a loop we would need. So I'm just wrapping it off on my hand and then holding it against this. Now if I roll so that the end there is against one edge of the leather, I know that if I cut it here, we'll have the right length. I'm going to go a little bit longer just to give us a little bit of free play, and then once we go through and wrap the leather, it's going to add a little bit of space too. So we'll just give it a little slice. Now our ends are all burned together. We can start planning out the wrap for the goat skin.
Premiumbeat.com.
Now, with all of the wacky bits done, and we don't have to use the hammers to tool anything else in, we can get this granite out of the way and move on to the dyeing process. So let's... Okay. I got a better idea. Hang on. Alright, that's a lot better. Now, let's move on to the actual dyeing process. Normally, I would use a leather dauber for this, but apparently I'm out. And the closest place to get them is about 30 miles away and closed today. So, we're making do with what we've got here. I'm hoping that in using this acid brush, we can kind of get a little bit of that. We'll get a nice consistent finish, but we'll be able to do something so that it's got a little bit more of that rustic feel to it. And there we have it. Giving this, you know what? Just hang on one second here. That's better. I just that background was just ugh. Okay, so now the dye is all dried up. We have our nice contrasting colors here, and everything's ready to go. All that's left to do is start stitching. So let's start stitching. There you have it, guys. A little bit of leather, a drawing by a 9-year-old, and some time. We've turned this regular mason jar into like a watch-themed rustic beer mug. I really like the way it came out. The baseball stitching in here it adds a lot to it. I really like it, and I'm a big fan of the way that this buckle turned out. Even though we have to kind of tuck the end here in, I like how that came out. I really like the way that the copper color and stuff came through after we heated it up. I just left that there. I wanted it to have that really rough feel. And I gotta tell you, tooling in a child's drawing into a piece of leather isn't something that I've ever done before, but I like it. I think it's got a lot of character to it, and I think it's really something that is going to be a cherished gift. And in case anybody's wondering why beer time is 12/28, this is actually a gift from my son to my father for his birthday, and his birthday is December 28th. So just got a little backstory there. So as always, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know down in the comments below what you liked, what I could have done better. I'm a beginner leather worker myself, so if you have any tips or anything, please feel free to leave them. And otherwise, as always, like, share, comment if you feel so inclined. I'd really appreciate it. And have a great day. Bye-bye.